They're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. They're altogether ooky. Yes, they're everybody's favorite Halloween all-year-round household, and you guessed it, they're the Addams Family. But how much do you know about them? Like, really know? What's Wednesday's middle name? Where is the real Addams Family TV series house? Or whose hand-played thing? So, get a witch's shawl on and a broomstick you can crawl on as we head on over to the dark side of town, pay a visit to the Addams Family, and let's find out. Monday's Child.
Hello.
Well, hello. You must be one of the Addams children.
I'm Wednesday.
The character Wednesday gets her name from a 19th century nursery rhyme titled Monday's Child. In it we hear that Monday's child is fair of face and Tuesday's child is full of grace, but Wednesday's child is full of woe. Now you may already have known that, but I'll bet you don't know that Wednesday's middle name is... well, I'll answer that at the end of the video. Cartoonist Charles Addams created what we now call the Addams Family back in the 1930s for what became an occasional series of cartoons for the New Yorker magazine. The first character to appear was an as yet unnamed Morticia. She first appeared in a cartoon on August 6, 1938, in which we can already see the slim figure and stylish wardrobe that she's known for. The next character to be created by Addams was that of the butler Lurch. In the TV series, that part went to Ted Cassidy, who actually plays two roles in the show. More about that alternate persona in a minute. He started out as a college basketball player while completing a degree in speech and drama. Then he became a disc jockey for a Dallas radio station before trying his luck in Hollywood, and came close to quitting after being told too often that at 6'9" he was too tall for film roles. His classic line was the deal clincher for getting the role of Lurch, and even though the part of the butler was intended to be non-speaking, the show's writers changed it as soon as they heard him speak his immortal lines. After Lurch, Charles Addams added Thing to his growing family, and then Fester, Morticia's uncle, though he's generally seen alone in the cartoons, but hence why he's referred to as Uncle Fester in the TV series. In the films, however, his character has changed to being the biological brother of Gomez. The films weren't the first to make this change though. This was done in the 1973-75 Hanna-Barbera cartoon series. As the numbers of Addams Family characters grew, they still all remained nameless, right up until the TV series came along in 1964. It was the developer of the show, David Levy, who asked Charles Addams if he could supply names for his creations. Morticia came from Charles looking through telephone yellow pages and seeing a listing for morticians. Pubert was the name that he gave to Wednesday's brother, but the producers of the show thought it too sexual, and so he became Pugsley. Meanwhile, Gomez could have instead been called Rapelli. Charles Addams gave the producers two options, and the decision was given to actor John Astin to choose which name his character would be called. Caramia, mon cher.
It would be beguiling to be on the moon with you, Caramia, especially if we landed on the dark side.
Darling.
John Astin was also responsible for much of what we know and love about Gomez, but he actually originally auditioned for the role of the butler Lurch when the series was planned to be more about that character. Thankfully, though, David Levy changed all that and saw him more as a Gomez. Perhaps it was the mustache that he was already touting. The synonymous cigar smoking is another John Astin attribute, saying that he used to smoke cigars at the time. Many have tried and failed to establish what brand of cigars they actually were. A brand of cigars called Dutch Masters was one of the sponsors of the show, but the most popular theory is that Gomez would lean towards one of the banned Cuban varieties. Lighting up at an eye-watering $80 each, Cohiba Lancero cigars, the Cuban type favored by Fidel Castro, seemed the most likely candidate, and who better for Gomez to also share as a smoking buddy. Returning to Morticia, Carolyn Jones wasn't the first choice to play the part. The producers were keen on British actress Barbara Steele, who had appeared in The Pit and the Pendulum opposite Vincent Price, but she was living in Rome at the time and didn't want to move to LA. Even Carolyn Jones wasn't too keen on taking up the role, saying at the time that she wanted to focus on films. She had, after all, been nominated for an Academy Award for her role in 1958's The Bachelor Party. Jones was also in the throes of going through a divorce to none other than Charlie's Angels, Love Boat, and Beverly Hills 90210 creator Aaron Spelling, who told her that she should take the role. As a testament to how much she ended up loving the part of Morticia, she was still able to joke around with fellow cast members, even though she endured wearing a real human hair black wig, 90 minutes of makeup, and 20 minutes to slink into her dress each day, which had Velcro up the back so that she was able to walk between takes. She was loved so much that when the show was cancelled, she was gifted her iconic wicker chair, which had appeared in a production before The Addams Family. That production was the classic 1953 film From Here to Eternity. Coincidentally, a film which Carolyn was meant to star in, but a bout of pneumonia meant that the role of Alma instead went to Donna Reed. And by the way, Carolyn's real hair colour was strawberry blonde, which happens to be the same colour as those bountiful locks belonging to Cousin It, who as a character never appeared in any of the cartoons created by Charles Addams and was created specifically for the TV series, in which he appears in more episodes than any other incidental character. You may also recognise, or not, Felix Silla, the actor who plays Cousin It, as Twiki, the robot in the 70s TV series Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, and as an Ewok in Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. You might also be interested to know that Cousin It also has the honour of having two plant subspecies named after him in Australia, one of them being Acacia cognata Cousin It, and the other Casuarina Cousin It. An oddity which brings us on to things are not what they seem. The identity of the actor playing Thing in the TV series was a closely guarded secret. As I've already hinted at though, it was Lurch playing Thing, but not all of the time. When there were scenes in which Lurch and Thing appeared together, assistant director Jack Voglin would lend a hand. But that's not the only sleight of hand. Sorry, I'm really going to stop now. Ted Cassidy, or Lurch to you and me, would ordinarily use his right hand for Thing, but sometimes he'd use his left just to see if anyone would notice. You can see an example of a lefty Thing in the episode The Addams Family Meets the Undercover Man, in which Thing hands a letter to Morticia. Another case of things not being what they seem in the TV series is the legendary pink wall story. And if you haven't heard this one, that the mansion was actually painted pink inside because it looked better in black and white, then you probably aren't also aware that the Addams family home was a real mansion, at least in part, and only as an exterior. Yes, 001 Cemetery Lane between the graveyard and the swamp really did exist. I'd say it did because sadly it's been demolished and all that now remains is a street lamp, which is visible in some of the publicity images. Also, the exterior wasn't so tall as it was made out to be in the TV series. Extra elements were added to make it seem more imposing. Two more final points about the house. The real house, before new streets were added around it, its original address was 747 Addams Street. And this one is the spookiest Addams story you'll ever hear. The house was rented for 17 years by another Addams family, nearly 50 years before the TV series came along. And while we're talking spooky, I'll bet you didn't know that Jodie Foster appeared in the Addams Family. Well, it's a bit of a cheap cheat there, as she voiced the character of Pugsley for the first episode of the Hanna-Barbera 1973 cartoon spin-off of the show. Thank it's Friday. Well, there you have it. That's about as much as I can squeeze into a short video. And I've barely touched on talking about the show's producer, David Levy, whose idea it was to turn Charles Addams' cartoon characters into a TV series, and the show's director of 48 of the 64 episodes, Sidney Caulfield, who you might not know directed The Hound of the Baskervilles, as well as several Bob Hope films including My Favorite Blonde and The Lemon Drop Kid. And if you've been wondering why these insights into the Addams family have been focusing almost exclusively on the original 1960s TV series, it's because it's this TV series and the original cast of actors who played the roles who went a long way to developing the characters that we've all come to love. That's not to say that the film version or its sequel didn't bring a lot more to Charles Addams' cartoon creations or David Levy's TV adaptation. I mean, has there or will there ever be a better Wednesday Addams than Christina Ricci's turn at the role? Well, on that one, only time will tell. As of making this video, Tim Burton's Wednesday, starring Jenna Ortega in the title role, is still a month away from hitting Netflix, and I hope you're as excited as I am to see where he takes the franchise next. And before I forget, it's Friday. Wednesday's middle name is Friday.